Everyone for joining our meeting this morning with Mayor Woodward. Windermere Real Estate and all of our agents are closely integrated with the Spokane community. And we believe that with the high level of integration, it's important to keep our agents up to date with accurate, real, timely information and make sure that when they're talking to their clients, they have solid facts that they can take to them for advice, for just general conversation, and just make sure that we're keeping everything accurate and up to date. And that's where we're so thankful today to have Mayor Woodward on our call. Thank you so much for joining us, Nadine. We're so happy to have you. We're going to start with a quick little general update from the mayor, and then we're going to go to a few predetermined question answer portion. I asked you guys to submit some questions, so I took those, combined them as much as I could so we weren't too redundant there. So without further ado, Mayor Woodward.
Well, thank you, Emma, so much. And it's a pleasure to address this group. Just want to give you some updates on the city's side of things, then definitely that impact your industry. We are in, of course, and have been for several months now, phase 2 of the state's reopening plan as far as opening businesses in our economy. We've been working very hard as a region to get us to phase 3. Thank goodness it was our advocacy really from the mayor's office that got us to phase 2 by Memorial Day weekend, because that's where we've been stuck. We were the biggest county in the state to get to phase 2. I think it's really important that people understand the role of mayors in getting from phase to phase of our reopening statewide plan. That is basically mayors don't have a whole lot of control or authority. It's up to the public health officer, Dr. Lutz, the health district, the county commissioners, and then the hospital system that petitions to get us to the next phase, and they go through the governor's office and the State Department of Health. So all I can do is continue to advocate for our businesses, and it's been quite successful. So I appreciate what you've done as an industry, because coming up and being proactive with ways that you can expand how you do your business is what has resonated with our governor and with our health department. So I tell every different business sector, be proactive, come up with ways that you can do your open houses, that you can just advocate for your industry to be able to do more of what you need to do as realtors. So thank you for all of that work. I just did my conducted my statement of affairs and conditions, which is something that's required in our city charter. I delivered that address to our county, or excuse me, to our city council. Let them know what our next 100 days plan is for economic recovery. We're also working on our budget for 2021, which is definitely taking a hit. However, I have been able to make some changes within our organization that I think is going to really help realtors. And that is an Office of Economic Development. So we are going to hire for that position to work to bring more businesses to the city. We're also revitalizing our Hacking Washington initiative that was quite successful under former Mayor David Condon. We are probably going to partner with GSI in order to do that. So that's a huge deal. We're also hiring a new city planner. In fact, we've recruited out for that position. We're going to start taking a look at the top finalists for that job. I think the nice thing is I've got some alignment with our city council as far as what that position should look like. I'm looking for someone who is very innovative, very creative, especially when it comes to housing opportunities, infill opportunities downtown, looking at mapping out properties within the city that we can take advantage of. So all of those things. Also I've activated the housing action plan. We've got meetings with many stakeholders. We've been doing that for several months now to come up with ways that we can make it easier for home builders to build and identify properties where we can take advantage of building and developments and things like that. That's something that you can take a look at if you'd like to on our city website. when it comes to downtown, I know a lot of you are concerned with the homeless situation. Downtown, COVID has thrown us many, many challenges when it comes to the impact of homeless in our downtown core. And I work very closely with the Downtown Spokane Partnership and with our own teams, with the law enforcement, with our police department, with the courts on what we can do. COVID, unfortunately, really slowed our ability on enforcement, breaking up camps, enforcing sit and lie. Community court was closed because of COVID for many months. So even if officers were citing people, they weren't going to court. So it's been a real challenge. We relied on Geiger Corrections Facility to use their inmates to clean up downtown. We had a contract with them, especially the viaducts. That was all put on hold because of COVID. So we're trying to catch up on a lot of that. And I know it has impacted the downtown area. I'm hopeful that the opening of our police precinct, which is now on Wall and Riverside, will have an impact in that area of homelessness and public safety downtown, so people feel comfortable returning back to downtown. One of the obstacles too is because we have so many people who are now working from home, and the tens of the thousands of people who typically work on any given day downtown, in addition to people who would be visiting or shopping, tourism, all of those things that typically disperse or displace the homeless, we don't have anymore. And so it does look like we have a lot more homeless downtown, but we are working to mitigate that and to catch up on some of the things that we haven't been able to do because of COVID. But just know that as mayor, I continue to advocate for our economy, for opening up more businesses. I talk to especially the hospitality industry right now. So many of them are barely making it. They've been able to do so because during the summer they could expand their space outdoors. We made it easier with our permitting process for them to be able to do that, whether it was moving into more sidewalk space or parking lots, or even vacating streets if they wanted to. But now that the weather is changing, that's definitely impacting them. So really doing everything we can to help the hospitality industry get to phase 3. So at the very least, they can increase their capacity inside so that those that are barely making it can continue to hang on. So that's a real concern of mine right now. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you about. Do you want me to go through some of these questions that came up, Emma, or do you want to ask the questions? You want me to just to go down and take a look at those?
Sure. I mean, some kind of go over a few things you already touched on a bit. So
sure.
There's a few things on there that maybe weren't touched on. If you want to kind of look over that question, that might be easy for you to decide the best way to answer it based on what you already told us to make it a little more relevant for us. I know we had, starting off with just with the colder weather, do you think that they're going to make any adjustments to what is allowed during phase 2, or if there's going to be a bigger push to move forward to allow those businesses to really make it through the winter?
Yeah, that's a great question. Usually we don't know until the day that the governor announces any recommendations or tweaks to his reopening plan. What we're hearing right now is because the county's cases continue to increase, and because they are concerned about those gatherings inside, our county health officer, Dr. Lutz, has indicated that he might impose some more restrictions, and whether or not that's in places like restaurants and bars, I think it's going to be targeted towards some of those areas where there is more of a community spread. I'll tell you, I haven't seen a lot of data that indicates that community spread is in restaurants. And considering the fact that we've had 2 casinos that have been open for months. I don't know if any of you have been to Northern Quest recently, but I mean, they've got 1,000 people inside for hours at a time. People are not wearing masks, and they are drinking and cohabitating. They are all different age ranges. And the fact that that's not a super spreader indicates to me that we can do gatherings inside without that risk. But of course, that comes from the county health officer, the health district, and the state. So unfortunately, not getting a lot of indication about what they're going to do. I think right now, Dr. Lutz is concerned about some of the home gatherings that take place, because our numbers seem to spike right after holidays when friends and families get together. And so I don't know if he's going to try to restrict that. I don't know how you can in people's private homes, but that's something that we're hearing. So we usually don't know until it actually happens, but that's what I can tell you when it comes to gatherings. I'm advocating us to get to phase 3 so that we can just increase the capacity inside for those retail and restaurants that need it, so that they can continue to survive, especially during the winter months. And we're working on campaigns to get people downtown. Problem is nobody's downtown. It's kind of a ghost town on most days. Weekends it picks up, but we're trying to come up with some events that we can do as a city. And if they're COVID, if they're done with under COVID compliance regulations, we can even use some of the county's CARES Act funds to fund some of those events and the infrastructure to hold those events, like tents and heaters and things like that. We're working on, for example, if you come downtown, package deals. So if you come downtown to use the ice ribbon, which, by the way, the ice ribbon is going to open next month. We've come up with a plan that Dr. Lutz has okayed to get people downtown. So if you buy a ticket for the ice ribbon, we throw in 2 hours of free parking for you and 30% off at a restaurant downtown. So that's subsidized with CARES Act money through the county, but it helps everybody. So we're just looking at things like that. Oktoberfest events, just anything. The symphony's not having concerts, but we have infrastructure downtown because of Hoop Fest and all of the speakers. We could do a concert that way with vacating streets and having outdoor eateries under tents and maybe some ability to serve alcohol as well. So just trying to be creative in that area, just to get people to come downtown but spend time downtown and frequent businesses. So another question was, I'll just take a look at this, Emma, as I'm working down.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, the urban growth boundary was a question. It's coming up for review. It's a county thing, but is there any influence that the city has right now? The good thing through COVID is that we have been able to explore regional partnerships on a number of issues. Homelessness is one of them. Our response to this health pandemic is another one. Housing will be a huge one. But on the urban growth boundary, I think that's something that we can talk to the county about. Nothing has been solidified on that as far as what the city's involvement is yet, but that's something that we can seek some regional solutions to, and we'll continue to work with the county. I've got a good relationship with all of the county commissioners. We've been working on our addressing homelessness right now, and so I look to be able to leverage those relationships in other areas, and certainly we will with the urban growth boundary. I kind of addressed the homeless situation downtown. It seems like I hear a lot of businesses that aren't happy with the way it looks right now, but I'll just share this with you. I got a call from Eric Johnson. He's a news anchor at Como TV in Seattle. He's in town doing a story. You may remember he's the one who did the Seattle is Dying documentary video. He's doing a follow-up to that because of everything that's going on in Seattle, which is not good. And his follow-up documentary is Seattle losing its soul because of what they've done with the homeless issue there, also all the protests. But he was staying at a hotel downtown and said, it looks great. It looks clean as a whistle. He said, I haven't been all over downtown, but from what I can see, it looks great. So that was some nice feedback from somebody who was out of town. But we're, like I said, doing everything we can to catch up in that area and the impact downtown as well. Another question that you have here is road and infrastructure and how it impacts real estate. You were looking for an update on the north-south freeway completion. City's not really involved in that, but you probably did see that the court struck down 976, which was the car tab measure, and a lot of money was being set aside until that court ruling was decided. And because that was struck down, that will free up the millions of dollars that were set aside to continue working on that project. So at least the North-South Freeway won't be put on hold much longer once we get those dollars back working on that project. Also, you probably saw too, there was an article in the Inlander not very long ago that the DOT that had set aside a lot of property, especially on the southern part of the North-South Freeway around the East Central community, that now they're not going to need all of that property. So there's acres available that we're hoping that they will unload relatively quickly, but with government, everything's slow, that we could even target some of those acres for housing projects, and just get creative on how we can leverage and utilize that space. So I think I might have covered everything, but if anybody has a question, I'd be happy to answer it outside of even the questions that you gave me, if you've got time.
Yeah, I know one question that was sent to me kind of after the fact was there was there's a reopening, I believe is it today, or the opening of the new playground structure right at Riverfront Park?
Yeah. The Playscape in Riverfront Park officially opens tomorrow. We're going to have the dedication ceremony. I can see it right outside of my office. I've been able to see the construction of it all summer long, and it's a project, a partnership that we had with Providence. They donated just over $1 million to make that happen, and it is a playground for all abilities. So it's really awesome. It's wheelchair accessible. There's plenty of space for families to watch their children, and it's when we say it's available for children of all abilities, it's very cognizant of some of the challenges that some of our children have. And so it's a wonderful project, and you can see it online, but we're opening it up tomorrow. Of course, tomorrow we're supposed to get snow as well. So I don't know how many people will be able to actually use it. I'm hearing 3 to 5 inches starting at 11 o'clock tomorrow. So our snow plan is in effect. We're ready for the snow. And we've just created some surge capacity in our homeless shelters because the weather is changing a little bit earlier than normal. We usually open up our homeless shelter warming center season in November. And now here we are, the 22nd of October, and we're having to do it a little bit earlier. So we've talked with our operators to provide some more spaces so we don't have people freezing on the sidewalks during the next week of incredibly cold early weather. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you. And everyone, I did open up the chat. So if you do have a question you'd like to put in there, feel free to add it to the chat. We do have one from Alice. She says, hello, Mayor Woodward. I think ventilation is a reason for the difference between COVID spread in the casino or restaurants versus in-home gatherings. Has the county considered certain levels of ventilation as a key to allowing increased indoor gatherings? Do you know anything about the ventilation?
Well, I think the ventilation is going to be just a responsibility of the individual facilities, the restaurants and things like that. That might be a CARES Act expense that could be approved. So, that might be something that the Hospitality Association and the Restaurant Association submits to the county for their CARES Act money. From what I understand, they still, out of their $91 million that they received from the federal government, still have about $40 million on the table. So I think they could make a case. I think those associations could make a case for funding to help with individual restaurant ventilation. It's a good question.
Great. Gay was also wondering if there are any updates on our recycling issue in Spokane.
No, not yet. That's something that we're looking at. Recycling has become a costly thing. And we're looking at ways that we can continue to recycle, but the expenses are pretty high on what we are trying to recycle as a city. So that's an ongoing issue that is continuing to evolve. So no updates, Gay, yet on that.
Okay, and I had one come in through an email here. Let me open that up here. Questions regarding Amazon facilities, new businesses coming into Spokane. wondering if there's any news on what we could maybe foresee coming in. There's been some big construction, it looks like, going on in the valley that hasn't been announced what that's going to be yet.
Yeah, well, I
info.
can't speak to the valley because I'm not privy to, the permitting and some of the conversations that go on behind closed doors there. We do know, well, we just had groundbreaking in September for a company that's doing pharmaceutical injectionables, or what's the word I'm trying to think? Drugs that you inject. So they are manufacturing those devices, and they are doing it in 5 different phases. So they will have 5 different manufacturing components to the overall plan. They broke ground on the first. From what I can, if I remember correctly, each phase, so each one of those 5 phases is about $50 million and 100 jobs. So when all is said and done, it'll be about a $250 million project with 500 to 600 jobs, and those jobs are tied to the facility. So that's great. And they're also working with Area Eastern and some of the other colleges to make sure that we have the workforce locally that we're training and educating for those kinds of bio and science jobs. So that's in the West Plains. That's just a great addition. There is the Lowe's on North Division. Some of you might have information on this. There is going to be some type of distributorship business moving in there, but we don't have any specifics yet. So there are some things happening. Again, we are looking forward to doing some type of partnership with GSI on our Hacking Washington campaign. That was quite successful from a couple of years ago. We're going to update that campaign and launch that with even some more leverage, working with GSI on that. We have a lot of public projects right now. Our permitting is beyond what 2019 was because of the libraries that are being constructed and renovated right now, the schools that are being built. So that permitting is doing very, very well under COVID for 2020, which is great.
Great. Another question from Alice is retail and restaurant workers have been hardest hit during the pandemic, while construction and trades are still short of workers. Any thoughts on funding training programs to retain unemployed workers in Spokane into the trades?
That's a great question. Spokane WorkSource just received some federal grant funds to do retraining during COVID. And so they are targeting people, just as you mentioned, who worked in hospitality or retail, the minimum wage positions that have been the hardest hit. And oftentimes those are people who work paycheck to paycheck and already are struggling. So they're going to be targeting a lot of those who have had either their hours cut back or have found themselves unemployed during the last several months. And they will be spending those federal funds to retrain them in areas that will put them in a much better position once we get out of COVID. And a lot of those are tech jobs, LPN jobs, healthcare, and things like that. So I believe they received, it was anywhere from $6 to $8 million for some of those retraining efforts. So that is ongoing.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that answers the majority of the questions, unless anyone had anything else they want to put in there. We appreciate you taking the time to join our call. We think it's really important that they hear, our agents hear this information coming straight from you. There's no twist on it. There's no bias one way or the other on facts. So it's great to hear this. Thank you. We appreciate your time. We're sure you're very busy right now with everything going on. Yeah. Last question here, just to finish it up. How long do you think we will be with COVID?
I wish I knew. I wish I could look into that crystal ball and be able to give a hard timeline on that. We are preparing, I'll just tell you, with the city is, and after getting some guidance from the regional health district, is that we are preparing to respond to COVID through June of 2021. That's the next deadline that we have right now as far as providing space within our homeless shelters and everything else that we're doing that's COVID related. We're looking beyond just past the second quarter of 2021.
Okay. Great. Well,
yeah, great talking
again,
with you. And
thank you so much.
Yeah. If you ever have a question, send it to my office, mayor@spokanecity.org. And if you have an idea or it's a good way to get a hold of me.
Great. Thank you, and have a
All
great
right.
day.
Thank you so
Enjoy
much.
the opening of the park tomorrow, hopefully without snow.
Oh, I hope so too. Thanks a lot.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Great. Okay, everyone else, stick around for a moment to see a premier property that looks amazing of Mary Mars. Mary, I'm gonna unmute you and turn your video on so you can talk about this awesome new spot you have here. Okay, your video should be turning on. Okay, Mary, you seeing that? Oh, there you are. Hello. Okay, and we just need you to unmute yourself real quick. Okay, we should be able to hear you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for sticking around and looking at this fabulous house that is on tour today. Emma, will we have some video so they can see it? Because that makes it very special.
Yes, I am turning that on. I'm going to share my screen here and the video will play and you are free to say what.
Okay, so let me just tell you about it. It's on 3 acres. It's in the country, but it's just 10 minutes from downtown Spokane. So you head out towards the West Plains. It's on White Road, and it is 677,000, and it's extremely eclectic, and it's a one-of-a-kind house. So if you go and look at it, you'll go, wow. And those big doors bring the outside in with the screen. And it's just lovely with a lot of character. It has 4 bedrooms and 3 baths. It has a shop. It has a detached 2-car garage. It has radiant floor heating. It has solar panels. And it's just really delightful. The people that have seen it so far always rave about how unusual and artistic, and it's a special place. So if you have that buyer that is looking for something a little bit out of the ordinary, this is a property to check out. And it is close to Spokane, even though it has a Cheney address. It also has internet. So, and a lot of these country properties don't. This one does. So that is all set, and it's very creative. So give me a call. It's easy to show, and you can text me, and hope you have a chance to get out and take a look at it. And if we can ever do any of these premier meetings in person, this would be a great place because there's plenty of parking in the front, and it's a very big open floor plan and all one level. So thank you for listening.